It is Talking Craigs. I'm Neil Atkinson. This is Craig Hannan. How are you and yourself?
I'm not sure. I'm really not sure, Neil. It was a blow last night. I'll be honest. Like, it was one of those where so the first 19, you're seeing and feeling a big European night Anfield. You know, you're around you, you're feeling it. Everyone's like, oh, this feels a bit like we could do like a City. Someone behind me was like, this is like City in 2018, and if we get another one, and it was like you're starting to tell yourself stories in your head of like, this could happen and this could happen and this, but this could be another big European night Anfield, and then it all comes crashing down in front of your very eyes.
So I'm really
Neil.
pleased you've said that, or whoever it was who behind you said that, because that was not what I was thinking. Because there's two things. One is that City in 2018 are not Real Madrid in 2023. But there's something else as well, which is that they don't do two things. They don't go and make it 3.
Yeah.
And they don't also go, which I think they do a little bit against City in the 3-0, a 2-0. They don't go, sound. What we have, we hold. And that's where I'm frustrated with them. Is that for me, there's just repeatedly, and I think I also include like a 3-2. They should do a bit of, lads, just nothing now till 60. Just nothing till 60. And that's what Madrid do really, really well. They suffer brilliantly, Madrid, I think. I think it's a really underrated skill now in football. Firstly, identifying where threat is. Secondly, knowing that games won't always go for you.
Yeah.
And so saying, how do we get through this? And that's what drove me mad in there a little bit, was they just had to, in a couple of different phases and a couple of different reasons, just go, you know what? This is just going to go against us for a bit. What we have, we hold. And we go from there.
The thing that annoyed me most was at 2-1, it felt like both crowd and team had decided that they were suddenly 1-0 down. Like, it was as if we hadn't scored the 2 goals and suddenly everyone went, shit. Like, you could almost see like the fragility sort of play out. You could see like the anxiety levels sort of rise in the crowd, but on the pitch they all sort of were looking at each other thinking, fuck, the fun's over now. And it's along the same lines as what you just said there. I just felt like at 2-1, it just felt like, everyone had decided we were now 1-0 down. And even like, that was 20 minutes in. So essentially it's like you're half of that over the 2 ties. There's so much football to go, and yet
so much football.
and yet it was almost like that's the first goal is the only one where I look at it and I go, look, you can slow it down and say Gomez should get closer. You can talk yourself into what everyone could do better, but it's a great finish by a brilliant footballer.
I'll come back around onto that in a minute. There's a comment from Tommy which I think is really important, because I sort of disagree. I think I disagree with what he means. So Tommy says, where has our in-game management gone? And I still think we've got a sense of in-game management in quite a Benitez or Alonso way. I know a lot of people I speak to do. So Tommy, if that's not you, that's not what I think Madrid are brilliant at last night. Let's be really clear, Madrid should go 4 down. There's like, it should go 3-1, or it should even go 4-1 at the very least. And what they do really, really well is they just get through those periods. They don't manage, like Modric in the last half an hour is managing the game. That's Benitez, Alonso-esque, getting it, giving it, looking at it after it, striding around, looking great, saying we'll do this on our terms. What I think the sides are getting better at, and Madrid are the top, absolute top at it, is they were terrible last year in both legs against PSG, but whilst they're not on top, they just get through. And I don't think that's not game management in the way in which I've always understood it. Game management, the way I've understood it, is that you control the space, you control the ball or the space, or you do lots of things that even when you're not playing that well, you just sort of get through and get the other side. What I think sides are getting better and better at is going, this is just going against us for a period here, and we're just going to stick it out.
Yeah.
And that's what Madrid do brilliantly, both last season and also last night. And know the other thing, which is this, for 90 or 180 or 210 minutes, it won't always be like this. It'll come back around to us, and then we'll get back on top. And I basically think this Liverpool team's had a massive problem all season at one thing. It's been really shit at being shit. They've been crap at being crap. Yeah. They've been crap at being second best in games. And that's the game management that I want to see them get back to. It's all right if any opponent has 10 minutes where they're better than you.
Yeah.
And at the minute, it feels like if any opponent gets to the point where they have 10 minutes where they're better than us, we just go, oh, well, what's the point then?
Yeah, but that's the mental fragility, though, that I'm talking about. Like, that's the thing that, like, I know there's a big sort of clamour online to compare how far we've fallen from Paris, where it's a tight game and we get hard lines and the keeper, whatever, to now where we've been schooled effectively, but I think the biggest difference is that sort of mentality that we celebrated within the Liverpool side for years, but when we go 2-1 down, I feel like Brighton, Wolves, all of these, Brentford, all of these games just flashed across Joe Gomez and Virgil van Dijk's eyes in the moment that it goes 2-1, and they've gone, fuck, maybe the last two games weren't, these building blocks and weren't the momentum, and they've just sort of fallen down to that. That's how I felt anyway.
But this is why I feel, and I felt so. I was in the queue before I'm going in. There was a fella behind me who was living over on the Wirral, and he said, "What do you reckon tonight?" And I said, "I'd take a draw." And he said, "Why would you take a draw? That's mad." I said, "Well, in any case, any result for us, unless it goes mad, will still mean we need to get a result in the Bernabeu anyway." But I also just felt like this was coming a couple of weeks too early. I felt like we were beginning to get our sea legs back, but it was still coming a couple of weeks too early. So we get to their place, and then also let the madness maybe ride with us a little bit as well when we get there. And I just felt like it just came a couple of weeks too early for us in the end, in terms of being able to say, well, we've got a body of evidence now that we can manage this stuff a teeny little bit better. Before you get to the quality of Vinicius Jr., the excellence of Benzema, the survivalist nous and brilliance of Modric, the quality of their goalkeeper, albeit he does us a favour last night. Before you get to all those little bits, I think Militao's great. Before you get to all those little bits and pieces, I just still felt like we didn't quite have our sea legs yet, and it was just coming a little bit too soon. But the flip side of that is, lads, you've still got to get through games of football, and 3-2 would have been fine. 3-2 going over there, because the thing that we've learned from last night is they'll give you a chance. They will give you a chance, and they gave people a chance last season, and they'll give you the chance. It's a really weird thing to say about a team that gets in over and over again, which we do, scores 2 goals, obviously concedes 5, so it's not mad to say it in one sense, but we were shit in both boxes. Because they'll give you the chance. Salah gets in 4 times, and that doesn't include the time he scores. He gets in 4 times in the first 30 minutes, gets in 4 times. If you'd have said to me, Salah's going to get in 4 times, I'd have gone, fucking brilliant. Henderson gets in, Trent gets in. They all get in on that side over and over. Nunez scores, comes across. Gakpo, there's points where he's surging through the middle. You've still got to be clinical.
Yeah.
And they've still got to be, and this is a both box issue for me last night. It's a both box issue. It's a keeping your poise issue. It's a staying calm issue. And they're not yet in a position to be genuinely calm. And that is something they're going to have to work. And there's loads of other tactical stuff. I've just done review. It's brilliant, by the way, review. It really is. It gets into the macro. It doesn't just do last night. We talk about all sorts. We talk about moving trends and all sorts. Genuinely, really made up to have done it. Download the app, use the tokens, whatever you've got to fucking do to listen to it. It's boss. The only shame is that Dan Morgan had a meeting at 11 and he had to leg it. That's why we've done this a bit later. Literally, how this is how people's lives work. But that's for me the bit, you know what I mean?
But I'm listening to things you're saying. I'm going, yeah, I agree with that bit. I disagree with that bit. But I've just realised why that is, and it's because the game's split into 2 parts. The game is split into the first 20 minutes, and then after that, you can almost split it into 3, 20, and then up to half time. Because up to half time, they're all right. Obviously, there's individual errors. Like that second goal, it's Alisson's poor. I think Gomez isn't great. I think Bajcetic isn't great either. But then he's a young lad, and he's on the biggest stage. And this is how he learns, and we know that's par for the course if you're going to play
He's got a great
young
video
lad
to watch.
Yeah, and he will learn from it. Like I thought the first 20 minutes he looked great, but it was the first 20 minutes I was watching it. First 5 minutes I was watching it, and I was looking, and I said to my mate, every single one of our footballers here has done something good already. Liverpool have settled into this game. Nunez had got a goal, Salah had got an assist, Bajcetic had got control of the ball and was spreading it out wide. You saw Robertson and Trent looking really good. You saw a team that were able to get at this Real Madrid side. But it's that mental fragility. It's that like what you're saying there about it coming too early. The game coming too early, because the idea that the last 2 games where Liverpool have sort of started to build some momentum, they didn't have it where a team equalised and they have to go again. They didn't have that. Do you know what I mean by that?
Yeah.
They had, they've got the goal, they've got the other goal, and then they've seen it out.
But the flip side of that, though, is that for me, you'd also want them to have the clean sheet. And the clean sheet helps. And I think what's really important is that, so there's a comment here from someone who calls himself Realism Jared. I refuse to believe that's what he's christened. Courtois said he couldn't believe how fragile we were, how humiliating is that. First and foremost, Jared, don't be fucking humiliated yourself. This idea, people will say, someone said, I feel embarrassed. Don't feel embarrassed, it's a football match. It's all right, if you're going to play, you risk getting beat, and that's the way in which life works. So you're all right, Jared, have a good day, feel good about yourself. I don't want you upset. It's really important to me, and that's for everyone. It's really, really important that you don't sort of take this stuff and carry it around with you all the time. We're all better than that, and all that sort of stuff. But we are fragile. we are fragile. And I think that fragility, when you've been as fragile as we've been, we've lost so many games of football this season. It takes time to build it back up. It does take a bit of time to build it back up, and there are positives to take from last night. And what I think is important, I'm going to get onto the negatives in a minute or two, but what I think is important is that the positives to be taken are not lost in the noise. Again, I think Gakpo was a good half. I think he disappears a bit second. Ironically, I don't think he should have done Gakpo and Nunez. I think he should have done just Gakpo when he does him.
No,
he should have kept Nunez on and
those subs annoyed me, to be honest.
Yeah, well, and the subs there was aspects of the subs that were annoying. Don't get me wrong, but I think he should have done that. At that point, I think it would have been interesting to see what it looks like with Jota through the middle and Nunez out left, and just to get Nunez to cheat a little bit. But I'm quite ultimately of the view. The other part of it, and Glenn Murray just said today, at risk of sounding like Roy Keane in that second half, why did no one put any of them 6 feet in the air and lay a glove on them? Now, we don't have to be Roy Keane about this, Glenn. I thought the other thing Madrid do brilliantly all the way through the game is fuck me, they foul well. They're so
streetwise. It reminded me of like when we were kids and we'd go and play this team and they were just mad, and my dad used to say to me, they're streetwise team, you need to get in on them because they're going to kick you. If you don't kick them, they'll just keep kicking you until you're dead. Do you know what I mean? And that's what I was watching a team last night. Like there's one again, Bachetti was like, I'll try and foul him. I think there was one, I think it was
well, no, that's the goal for the fifth. So the fifth, Fabinho
miscontrols
it dreadfully. Yeah, he does, but he still tries too nice. He's trying to pull him back in a nice little genteel, you're meant to take the free kick way.
Yeah.
Whereas Modric is going, no lads, we're going to score.
Yeah.
The reason why you want to foul me is because you think we're going to score, so I'm just going to do everything I can to not be fouled by you. I'm not going to do that, it's 4-2 and I'm going to fall down. And again, Bacic is young, but Fabinho should take the lad.
Yeah,
he miscontrols, he should just take the lad and take the yellow and go, do one of them afterwards and go, we all know. Yeah. He doesn't do it. They foul, I thought at times, they were fouling just to keep their hand in. Yeah. They were fouling because this is what we do. You pick it up there, we're just going to do this to you from behind. There's loads of points where they come just goal side. When you're trying to play a good pop ball in, and their attitude is, we'll take ball or man, because it's still 30 yards from goal, so we'll take ball or man, and we're quite relaxed. And a lot of the time they get ball because they're committed to taking ball or man, and then when they take man, they go, but Sam will just defend the free kick. I'm like, why is only Elliott booked for dissent, for God's sake? And the other thing on that is, I don't think it's a foul, Gomez. I think he goes in hard, and this is so it contradicts what I've just said. I think he goes in hard on Vinicius, but I don't think it's a foul for the third. I don't think it's clumsy. But no, I think it's hard. I don't think it's clumsy. I think he's going over there to wallop him, and I'm fine with that. But I think he thinks he's walloping and getting the ball. But Liverpool firstly should argue the toss endlessly about the free kick, and then when they move it to where they want to move it to, a Liverpool player should be going, no, it was on the goal line. It was on the goal line, because every yard they move it makes them 10% likelier to score. Because you're just moving it to the position of absolute maximum threat. We should be over there in the referee's face going, you've given that free kick, at least ensure it's from where it should be taken from.
All of the things you just said weren't even the biggest problem with that, in that they all stood like statues. Like that's a footballer that hadn't scored in 2 or 3 years, I heard. And there's no one near him, and there's a row of Liverpool players, and not one of they're all on their heels. Like there's not one of them on their toes whenever that free kick's taken. I think it was clumsy from Gomez. That whether it's a free kick or whether it's not, the position that he fouls him in is just outside the penalty box. What's that?
Why is he there?
Why is
Gomez there? That's not what he should be. And this is where I think Gomez is getting a lot. He's got grief in the comments. He's got grief overnight. You've got to and none of this is on any of the footballers. Gomez has to play right hand side at centre half, next to Virgil van Dijk. He's got Fabinho in front of him, but Henderson is playing like a right hand side attacker for much of the game. Trent is pushing right the way up. Imagine what your instructions to Joe Matip when he comes on. Right, okay, you've got to worry about Vinicius Junior, but you're also playing at centre half. Also, you've got to step into midfield. You've also got to have the ball at your feet all the time, because what they do is they're going to channel the ball to you, and you've got to play it out. You've ended up creating a situation where if you play right in this game, if you're right hand side at centre half for Liverpool, you're also playing right back. And that's on the tactical setup. I've got tons of sympathy for anyone who plays right hand side at centre half for Liverpool, whether it's Canate, Matip or Gomez. And you're coming up against the first or second best player on the planet at the minute.
Yeah.
So, and also he's cheating. He's not doing any defensive cover, and especially after Nacho comes on. Yeah. Nacho just basically just sits in. They put someone else in front of Nacho all the time who comes across, and Vinicius just goes, I'll just stand on the halfway line then.
I know what you're saying. I just worry about Gomez. Like, I worry about how many times I look at a goal and I think, it's not great there by Gomez, and I feel like if you're at the scene of the crime so much, then I begin to really worry. And I watched the highlights briefly last night, and each time I was like, you can make an argument here that Gomez could do better. There's a couple where he should do better, but it's just
I think I genuinely think it's hard. It's not Napoli away. So Napoli away, I think he has a stinker. I think last night.
But I'm not even talking about just last night. I'm talking about like a body of evidence over this season, and even at times last season, whenever we were really good, there was still moments where I'm like, oh, Gomez isn't great there. You know, I'd much rather have Canati and Van Dijk. I'm thinking more about the summer, and I'm thinking about what Liverpool need to do in the summer. Whenever I'm watching that game last night, because I know the easiest thing in the world to say is like, well, this is the end of that team, and now we have to start again. But honestly, like I'm looking at it thinking I want Gomez my 4th best centre back, so we need a centre back in the summer.
We need to do the access thing. We'll come back.
Okay.
Is the access insert?
My thing was, Mo, this is just a test of nerve.
Yeah.
You just got to keep your nerve,
for the Anfield Wrap. I'm delighted to be joined in the studio by Gary Judge and Danny Harrison. Gents, thanks so much for coming in to see us today. Appreciate it.
They make nerve disappear. They're so strange.
We're working together really closely with you guys, Gary, at the moment with Access Sports and introducing people to the wide range of services you deliver. But I know one of your key service providers, you know, is the Steven Gerrard Academy, and you know, doing fantastic work. Obviously, the reputation, you know, in the city and beyond sort of speaks for itself, but do a great job along with you guys to provide services to young people to take them to another level.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, the Steven Gerrard Academy in their own right have been around for a number of years now. We've always worked, I guess, in competition up until a couple of years ago, where, you know, we were vying for the same students, and there was an opportunity 2 years back for us to work together. Us, Access Sport, being the main provider of the funding, so to speak, and you know, working on the education side of the programme. But the Steven Gerrard Academy have had a fantastic track record of supporting students to get into the football industry, into sport, particularly on the practical aspect of it. You know, tours they've always done really well, which, you know, we're gonna come on to in a moment. But no, it's a very symbiotic relationship. You know, we've both got the same interests, which, as you say, is about developing young people and giving them the best chance to gain a career in sport.
Yeah, so from a sporting point of view, first of all, Danny, because so many of the young people you do take are aspiring footballers and still would love, you know, a career in football in some way, and you know, just a little bit more about the opportunities that you give those young people to learn and grow, but also to remember, I guess, for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, and it's spot on, I think. But some of the messages that we do have to send out is obviously where we want them to follow their dreams, but being that professional football is a real cutthroat industry. It's really difficult. But what we say is if they follow the process, if they work with our coaches, if they work with our teachers, some of the opportunities that Gary's just alluded to, the international tours, pathways onto further education, scholarships in the USA, they're all sort of relevant and they're all achievable if they follow those pathways.
We're back. Apologies for the start of that little clip there, just a minor technical issue. I don't even know how you do that. I mean, fair play to Fuad. He's really nailed that. Fuad doesn't know how he did it either. We've been partnering with Access all the way through since the start of the year, sorry. It's been a pleasure to do so. They've been great people to work with, and you can see from that clip there that a lot of the fantastic work that they do. That was a longer conversation. We'll be putting that out in full over today. Fuad, we're going to do it today. Marvellous, excellent stuff. That'll be coming out later today. Access do loads and loads of excellent educational stuff right the way across the country. They've got 16 different places where they do it to do with sports, sports media, and the idea of people being able to come into coaching. And it's not just football either. Check out everything that they do. It's on all of our socials, and I'm sure that Mick will put it in there, put the link in the comments under here, the live chat and the comments. I feel as though there's what we deny ourselves at the minute, and this is part of the Gomez point, is we deny ourselves flexibility. So we've decided we're playing the way we're playing. And what we don't have is the idea of going like this and playing in a different way that frustrates them. So to give you what I mean is, Caraval and when Nacho comes on, they just sit by the foot centre halves and they just play a flat four.
Yeah. And
then it's easy to be a centre half for Madrid because you've always got a full back. You've got two sitting in front of you and Modric buzzing around, helping out wherever he needs to firefight. Whether we've got the ball or not, we've always got to pass on. The way we're trying to play there is we're trying to play, in inverted commas, our way. And what never happens is no one's in a position to say, can we just help the boys out for a bit here? Can we help the centre-backs out? Can we help Fabinho out? And trust me, I think Fabinho is a problem in the same way that I don't want Gomez playing 2 games in a week, 2 intense games in a week, Newcastle and Madrid back-to-back. I think if you look at many of his poorer performances, Gomez, they've often come when he's not had a week break in between them for a variety of reasons. I don't think he's entirely over the injury as part of that. But taking the individual personnel out, there isn't a point where we go, can we just help the boys out for a period?
So who should be doing that?
I think ultimately, that's down to the way in which we're choosing to set up, which ultimately comes down to the manager and his coaching staff. And I think that at the minute, I understand that. So there's a thing that I used to do when I do review. We used to say, but when they play Liverpool, they want to play the same way because they're trying to get results next week. And I think there's a thing with us at the minute still where we're not able, because we haven't nailed the first way we're playing well enough this season, we can't then deviate and flit around that because we're still trying to nail that bit. Yeah. We don't want to then go, it's all completely different. But I think there's something else as well, which is that we've got so many unique footballers, or we ask them to do unique things. So Trent's a great example of it. You want Trent, the way we use Trent and have used Trent is we use him as this weird, creative right back who needs to be given license to step into space and do all that he does. That's brilliant. Yeah. There's an argument, 2018-19 at Barcelona away, when we get beat 3-0, and this is the point here, he starts Gomez at right back. And he starts Gomez at right back because he wants to be more solid. And in the end, we sort of dominate that game, but they dominate the chances and they win 3-0. There's an argument last night, but it's hard to make the argument because they play so well for the first half an hour. But there's an argument last night, you play Matip and you play Gomez because you're playing up against the best or second best player on the planet, and you commit the idea of, fuck it, we just need to worry about this lad. But we never do that.
But is that, so the reason why I asked who should do that then, because the first 20 minutes, I keep splitting into 20 and 70 afterwards. The first 20 minutes, I was watching the game and I was thinking, I'm loving Trent, Henderson, Salah. Yeah. Like I'm loving this, the way they're working in tandem. It looks familiar again, I keep using that term, it looks like Liverpool of old. We go 2-0 up. Is there an argument then that Henderson should be looking at where his is? Because I'd love to see Henderson's average position in that first 20 minutes. Yeah. Because should he be then going as captain, right, we're 2-0 up here, you said it, what we have, we hold. Should he be the one then that's dropping in and helping Trent and saying to Trent, just calm down, we're getting forward? Like, you know, that idea, is that something that he should be doing?
So theoretically, yes, but all season and for much of last season, that hasn't been happening. So that must be coming from the sidelines. I don't think I think there's a lot of chat about, I think Henderson just intuitively protects Trent more than Elliott does, not least by virtue of the fact that he's bigger. Yeah. I mean, in a really straightforward way, and has got more sort of playing as number 6 experience. But Henderson starts that game playing like an attacking midfielder off the right-hand side, if you see what I mean. Yeah. And we're still looking to do that in those periods of time. The manager wants to change that, he can shout. If he wanted to go and play 2 full-backs there, you know what I mean, and put Trent right in front and put Henderson right in front of him, I think it's also on the manager's side. Is it on the manager's side? Or is it, no, it's not. It's on my side. It's not on the manager's side. He can do that, and he can look after that. And but anyway, that message can filter on. So for me, this is Go on.
The other thing I was going to say was the manager, if he was watching this, the manager would say, well, at 2-0, Liverpool look as if they can get a third against Real Madrid. So why would I change that in that moment? So it's very easy for me to sit in hindsight and say that. It's maybe one for a conversation around 2-1.
But all of this, though, it filters from, someone's just said Atkinson talking absolute bollocks, the unique players, for fuck's sake, says the dude in there. That is not the way the dude would speak. As someone who's a big fan of the Big Lebowski, that is not the way the dude would speak. So I don't believe he's the dude, is the key point. There is within that, though, what I mean about unique players is that Liverpool have decided to attack in a way where Salah is the most important player and he plays off the right-hand side. Often, in much of football, that's your number 9. Everything goes through your number 9, or that's the way in which tradition.
When they're at their best, anyway.
But Salah, that's what we've done with Salah. Yeah. Then from there, we've had this idea of the right-hand side of midfielder in a midfield 3, but who plays like a right midfielder / an attacking midfielder, and then from there, that creates space for Trent to move into to do the Trent thing. What we don't ever choose to do is go, we're just playing a flat 4 for a period. You very rarely see Liverpool just play a flat 4 for a period, but that's because we're trying to get the best out of a right back who we've seen year in, year out, who has outrageous and unique numbers, the dude, in terms of his level of creativity, in terms of his number of assists, in terms of all this stuff that he's got at the age that he is. And what we're trying to do is get the very, very best out of him in amongst those areas. So that makes sense. But then I think we've got to reach the point where we have a bit of a plan, which is, for instance, for the next 20, you do this. And I think we need to reach that point a little bit sooner than in the past, because ultimately I think sides have worked out, and this isn't just about Madrid, you know, because Madrid are a great side with a great player in Vinicius and a number of other really good players, that if you cheat a little bit with Vinicius and you just say to him, don't worry about the defensive work, you really manage to skew all of Liverpool's setup. Suddenly the right-hand side of centre-half, whoever it is going, Jesus Christ, I can't.
And that's not rocket science, that idea.
No, but a lot of what we've done though has been about risk versus reward. Yeah. And we've been rewarded for the risk. Yeah. And at the minute we're not being.
No. Yeah. I mean, you know, we're talking about how that like I mentioned how that 3 on the right looked really good in the first 20, and I mentioned the idea that I was looking at every Liverpool player and thinking that he'd done something. Even Fabinho was looking at, where even whenever Liverpool were good, I was thinking, you know, he looks as if he's settled in the game. He doesn't look flustered, but then he's still slow in the game a little bit too. Like I would have liked him to be a bit quicker, get it a bit wide, But then second half, I'm just looking at the midfield and going, fucking hell, like you know, just the. I think I was watching the midfield that like we've watched all season. I was seeing all the problems play out in the same way, and I wondered whether it was like whether we'd given everything in that first 20 or that first half, and in the second half, like Fabinho, Henderson weren't able to hold. You know, like they weren't able to continue at that level. I often think Pachete's like I fucking love him. I'm so excited by him, but I often think because he's so young, on 60, if you're watching him, he looks knackered.
Yeah, no, I think there's a number of little things with the Pachetes. I think he could have done Pachetes at half time. I think he actually could have done 2 at half time. And again, another note I've got for this season in general: you get 5 subs. Fuck me, I'd like us to use them differently from time to time. Ash B has said it took until February to see that sides have worked us out. Crying, laughing face in there. No, Ash, I've been talking about Liverpool for fucking ages, mate. Also, sides are doing what I've been saying that they should do against us on shows like Review, which is play 2 wingers in wide areas, cheat and hold right the way up there and go from there. I've been saying that since 2018. Maybe they've started listening to our shows, lad. Anyway, moving all the way through on these little bits and pieces. Ultimately, I think, first and foremost, I don't want the defeatist attitude. Not about this game, but in general. They've won the 2 games back to back, and fuck feeling sorry for yourselves. That goes for the players, it goes for us as well. I'm not interested in that. There's tons of games of football to play between now and the end of the campaign. And Liverpool, I've got to find a way through and continue to improve, because we're not all wasting our fucking time here. Number one. Number two, though, for me, the reason why I'm not as downhearted by last night, because it doesn't change anything that I think. In that, I think what we've all sort of pretty much reached the point of is they need to do, I think, either a right back and 2 midfielders and move Trent to 6. That's what I think. Other people think 8, I think 6. Or they need to do 3 midfielders, keep Trent where he is. Maybe look at doing a centre-half on the Matip point and do something with Matip. And maybe then you've got more use of Gomez at right back from game to game. Yeah. But that's what I thought anyway before the ball was kicked. If you see what I mean, like for me, there's not some sort of grand moment of you've just said that about midfielders. It's not like I've gone last night. Oh my God, I really hope Fabinho's starting every game at 6 next season. Oh no, I don't. I'm still, you know, and that's why there's still a job to be done. And as far as I'm concerned, I still think there's every chance. And this isn't to say we'll go through. I wrote this last night in my piece. There's every chance 2 things happen at their place. One is we go 2-0 up. The other is they win 5-2. And there's a chance both of those things happen. Again, in literally the same way. Like, I don't think, because that's part of what they do, part of what they're good at. But for me, there's a job of work to be done. It's Palace on Saturday. And the good thing about Crystal Palace is they haven't got Vinicius. They probably won't even have Wilf Zaha, but they haven't got Vinicius. And this is where, you know, there's a job to be done here, and I cannot be bothered with defeatist bollocks. You play the football matches, you play the ones that are in front of you, you take them seriously, you win them. I don't want the crying. Like, I don't even want it from you. That's why this is talking Craig's. I don't want the crying. There's loads and loads of football still to be played. There's loads of jobs still to be done. Liverpool needs to have a fucking Marcus Rashford plan, don't get me wrong, because I will have been watching that last night going, get me to Anfield, because I can do what that lad's doing. Yeah. But as part of that, that's part of where we need to be now. There's a growth, there's a journey, and Liverpool need to be on it.
Agreed. And there's a few footballers that are playing for their future. There's a few footballers that are, you know...
Just on Ams, by the way, he said, oh, here we go, let's not buy players, but go back to the old conversation of putting Trent into midfield, crying face laughing, just buy some instead, maybe. I just said buy 3, or move Trent into midfield and buy 2. Fuck's sake, lads, listen to the words, and then you don't have to do crying face. Go on.
It wasn't that funny either,
was it? No, it's not funny. It's not funny.
I can't remember what I was saying, but like, I feel like, I mean, look, we were talking about this idea of like trying to build momentum in the season, and we had 2 games where we felt as if we were building towards something, and it's now how Liverpool react to all of this, because we're talking about how they react on the pitch last night to going 2-1 down. Well, that game's done. Like you say, we have to move on. We essentially need to set up next season. We need to be thinking about next season now, and that's why I was thinking about like, well, if I'm watching last night, like what I'm watching in the context of what do we need to do in the summer to make sure that this never fucking happens again. And like, you're going to be beaten by Real Madrid. I just don't want to be schooled. I don't want to be watching a team where it just all falls apart as soon as one thing goes up against you. But they can start to sort of you know, ensure there is a continuation of some sort of momentum that means we're not getting beat by Brighton again, we're not getting beat by Wolves, that we're building towards top 4, and ensuring that there's a platform for next season to be successful, because, you know, I don't think Liverpool are as far away as what for instance, like Jamie Carragher was talking about last night, and he was talking about like, you know, what Virgil van Dijk was doing and all of that. I don't think that's the case. I think there's like 3 or 4 signings in the summer that can help a lot of what we've help us do a lot of what we've done really well over the past 3 or 4 seasons.
Will that do?
That'll do.
See you in a bit.
Well, my thing was, Mo, this is just a test of nerve.
Yeah.
You just got to keep your nerve and keep your wits about you for as long as humanly possible, because what they do is they break the game. They make nerve disappear. They're so straight. You just got to keep your nerve, and that's what I'm most annoyed more than anything else with the fact that I don't think Liverpool had read the just keep your nerve, boys script. It's all right here. It's all right when it goes to, even when it goes 2-2. I understand the pin going in the balloon and us all being deflated, but they've just got to go. We just keep our nerve. I even understand it goes 3-2. We just keep our nerve. Don't worry, boys. And for me, that's what they don't do. They don't collectively just keep the nerve. Keep playing, keep calm, doing what works.
On the one hand, I feel like they played like a team who hasn't played Real Madrid in ages, because you assume that they're going to be really good the whole time, but you're right, there are times when you just need to hang in, because that's what they're doing. They are the best team. They are just hanging
in like nothing on earth.
They are the best team at suffering. Like, they are the kings of the rope-a-dope. Like, literally the kings of it. But the problem is, teams who've played them before, they should know this. We should know this. We should know that there are times when they look like they're unbeatable, and there are times when they look like you're about to slam them 5-0, and you just got to wait. But the problem is that we have played them a lot, and every time we played them, we've lost. And every time we played them, it's just left a little psychological scar. So we feel like, oh shit, we're going down this road, rather than thinking, no, we can still change the direction of this game.
YouTube, press the button, become a member of the Anfield Wrap from the heart of the city of Liverpool. The best way to enjoy all your Liverpool-based videos, everything you need, every single day. It is the Anfield Wrap.